As President Trump threatens military action against another country, this time Nigeria, saying, and I quote him, "If we attack, it will be fast, vicious, and sweet." CNN is learning what sparked Trump's ire against Nigeria. It came down to a segment on Fox, and Elena Trine is out front live from the White House. And Elena, pretty incredible that would be the case here. What have you learned?
Yeah, well, what I was told, Aaron, from two sources who were familiar with how this all happened, was that the president was headed to Florida on Friday. He was watching Fox News on the big screen, and essentially he saw this segment that Fox was doing on how Christians were being targeted by Islamic groups in Nigeria. And very quickly after that, one of the sources says it was immediate that it sparked some anger in him, and he began to inquire about it, asking his staff to be better read on it. But what was interesting was that shortly after he had touched down on Air Force One, he had just taken the Beast, his presidential motorcade, to Mar-a-Lago, is when you saw that first post.
The United States Senate just unleashed the impeachment storm that Donald Trump has been terrified of for years, and the sight of his closest allies literally crumbling on live television as they abandon him is unlike anything we've witnessed in American political history. We're talking about senators who defended Trump through 2 previous impeachments, suddenly hiring criminal defense attorneys and refusing to take his calls. Multiple articles of impeachment are advancing with devastating bipartisan momentum. Not just Democrats, but Republicans who've seen the sealed evidence are signaling they're ready to convict. The Senate chamber has become ground zero for the most dramatic political reckoning of our lifetime, with longtime Trump loyalists caught between saving themselves or going down with a sinking ship. But before we go any further, real quick, let's be honest. You can't really trust mainstream media anymore. That's why we built Pump Politics, and we're to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, join our free newsletter where we'll send the news straight to your inbox every day. Just click the link in the description to join. And if you just want to support what we're doing, join us. Be part of the community that actually cares about the truth. All right? Let's get back to the video.
And that President Trump has been tracking this issue for some time, even before the segment, and had already considered posting about it. Nigeria is a country of 230 million people, equal parts Christian and Muslim, and both Muslims and Christians have fallen victim to violence from terrorist groups like Boko Haram. But some high-profile killings targeting Christians this year have drawn the attention of President Trump and many Republicans, including an attack on a predominantly Christian farming community located on a very crucial area of farmland that killed at least 100 people. Joining me now is founder and executive director of the National Security Institute, Jamil Jaffer, and CNN military analyst, retired Colonel Cedric Layton. Let's talk about the scope of the issue. Trump is saying that Nigeria is allowing the slaughter of Christians. Do we know if this is true and the extent this might be happening?
Well, certainly Nigeria is not allowing the slaughter of Christians or Muslims for that matter. In fact, the Nigerian government is working very hard within the resource constraints that they have to actually fight Boko Haram, which is the main group that is actually attacking mainly Christians, but they're also attacking Muslims in the northern part of the country. So what you're seeing is really a state trying to provide counterinsurgency forces to the region and trying to engage in counterinsurgency operations. Success? No, they're not there yet. They definitely have some problems taking care of this from a mission standpoint. But the issue is that
Picture the scene unfolding in the Senate right now. Republican senators who were rock-solid Trump defenders just weeks ago are literally switching sides during live proceedings. We're watching real-time defections as new evidence is presented, with senators walking across the aisle to huddle with Democrats, comparing notes on what they've seen in classified briefings. The charges being advanced aren't just procedural violations or political disagreements. We're talking about obstruction of justice, abuse of appropriations power, bribery, and what some senators are calling outright tyranny. The documentary evidence supporting these charges is so overwhelming that even Trump's most loyal defenders can't figure out how to spin it. What triggered this impeachment storm was the convergence of multiple scandals hitting at once. The Epstein files revelations, evidence of systematic corruption, documented attempts to subvert Congress's constitutional authority, and sealed verdicts that apparently contain proof of crimes nobody even suspected. Senate proceedings have become the most watched political television in decades, with commentators calling this the storm Trump always feared the most. His allies aren't just distancing themselves, they're in full panic mode, issuing public statements, denying involvement. claiming they were misled and desperately trying to save their own political careers. The speed at which Trump's coalition is collapsing is absolutely breathtaking. Senators who were defending him on Sunday shows last week are now openly debating whether to vote for conviction. Former administration officials who swore loyalty to Trump are lawyering up and negotiating immunity deals. MAGA media figures are suddenly discovering principles they forgot they had. The phrase "rats fleeing a sinking ship" doesn't even capture the desperation we're seeing. This is more like watching an entire crew abandon ship while setting it on fire to destroy evidence. Behind closed doors, the panic among Trump allies is even worse than what we're seeing publicly. Sources report that multiple Republican senators have been shown evidence so damaging they literally broke down crying. One senator allegedly told colleagues that voting to convict Trump might be the only way to save the Republican Party from complete destruction. Another reportedly said the evidence makes Watergate look like jaywalking. These aren't moderate Republicans or never-Trumpers. These are hardcore MAGA senators who are realizing they've been defending the indefensible. The bipartisan nature of this impeachment push is what makes it so devastating for Trump. This isn't a partisan witch hunt he can dismiss. Republicans are driving this as much as Democrats. The Senate votes are stacking up in a way that suggests Trump might actually be convicted this time. The narrow margin needed for removal, 67 senators, suddenly seems achievable as more Republicans signal they're ready to vote for conviction. The impossible is becoming possible, and Trump's allies know it. Let's examine the specific articles of impeachment that have Trump's allies running for cover and why the evidence is so catastrophically damaging. The obstruction of justice charges alone include dozens of documented instances where Trump directly interfered with investigations, threatened witnesses, and destroyed evidence. But it's the abuse of appropriations power that has Republicans particularly terrified. There's apparently evidence that Trump diverted billions in federal funds for personal and political purposes in ways that constitute outright theft from taxpayers. The bribery charges are supported by what sources describe as an extensive paper trail of quid pro quo arrangements with foreign governments and domestic corporations. We're not talking about implications or suggestions. We're talking about documented exchanges of official acts for money, recorded conversations discussing the arrangements, and financial records showing the payments. One Republican senator who saw the evidence said it was like reading a corruption manual with Trump's name on every page. The clarity and volume of evidence has removed any ability to claim ambiguity or misunderstanding. What's really destroying Trump's support is the revelation of evidence showing attempts to subvert Congress's constitutional authority. This goes beyond policy disagreements or executive overreach. The evidence apparently shows deliberate plans to neutralize congressional oversight, blackmail legislators, and essentially establish authoritarian rule. The documents include written plans, recorded strategy sessions, and communications showing Trump knew exactly what he was doing. Republicans who've built their careers on defending the Constitution can't defend this, and they know it. The sealed verdicts that have been leaked to senators contain information that sources say is personally devastating to multiple Trump allies. We're talking about evidence of their own criminal conduct, their participation in conspiracies, their knowledge of crimes they failed to report. This is why we're seeing the mass hiring of criminal defense attorneys. These aren't just political problems anymore, these are potential criminal prosecutions. The senators voting on impeachment are doing so, knowing they might be next if they don't distance themselves from Trump immediately. The public hearings have become must-watch television, with ratings exceeding even the most popular sporting events. Americans are witnessing their senators grapple in real time with evidence of corruption on a scale nobody imagined. The presentations by House impeachment managers have been devastating, using Trump's own words, his own documents, his own recorded conversations to build an airtight case. Republican senators sit in visible distress as evidence is presented, some unable to even look at the screens showing documentary proof of crimes. Former Trump loyalists testifying before the Senate are providing devastating insider accounts. These aren't hostile witnesses. These are people who worked directly for Trump, who implemented his policies, who were in the room when decisions were made. Their testimony is crushing because they're confirming everything with firsthand knowledge. One former cabinet member's testimony was so damaging that Republican senators were seen leaving the chamber in tears. The cumulative weight of insider testimony is making Trump's guilt undeniable. The media coverage of this impeachment storm is unlike anything we've seen before. Every network is providing wall-to-wall coverage, with legal experts explaining the implications of each piece of evidence. Even conservative media can't spin this. The evidence is too clear, too voluminous, too damaging. Fox News anchors are openly discussing the possibility of conviction, something that would have been unthinkable weeks ago. The media consensus that Trump might actually be removed from politics forever is creating its own momentum. International reaction to this impeachment storm is significant. Allied nations are expressing relief that American democracy might finally hold Trump accountable. Adversaries are using the chaos for propaganda, but also seem genuinely surprised by the scope of corruption being revealed. The global implications of a former American president being impeached and potentially convicted for this level of corruption are enormous. America's reputation, already damaged by Trump, might paradoxically be enhanced by showing it can hold even presidents accountable. The role of the Epstein files in triggering this broader impeachment push cannot be understated. The revelations from those files apparently connected to other investigations, creating a web of evidence that implicated Trump in multiple conspiracies. Senators who might have ignored individual scandals couldn't ignore the pattern of criminality revealed when all the evidence was viewed together. The Epstein scandal was the thread that, when pulled, unraveled Trump's entire criminal enterprise. So what happens next as this impeachment storm intensifies and Trump's allies continue abandoning him? The Senate trial is moving at unprecedented speed, with leaders from both parties pushing for a quick resolution. The evidence is so overwhelming that extended debate seems pointless. Senators know what they're seeing and they know what they have to do. The vote on conviction could come within days, not weeks, and the numbers are trending toward the 67 votes needed for removal. The political realignment happening in real time is historic. Republicans are splitting into those who are staying with Trump until the end, a shrinking minority, and those who are trying to save themselves and their party by supporting conviction. This isn't just about one vote, it's about the future of conservative politics in America. The Republicans supporting impeachment are essentially declaring independence from Trump and trying to reclaim their party. Whether they succeed will determine the GOP's viability as a political force. Trump's allies who are crumbling fastest are those with their own legal exposure. The impeachment evidence apparently implicates dozens of Republican officials in various conspiracies and crimes. These people are making calculated decisions that cooperating with impeachment might earn them leniency from prosecutors. We're seeing a cascade effect where each defection makes others more likely, creating unstoppable momentum toward conviction. The allies who swore eternal loyalty to Trump are abandoning him to save themselves. The legal consequences extending beyond impeachment are staggering. The evidence presented in the Senate is also being used by federal and state prosecutors to build criminal cases. Trump's allies who participated in or knew about criminal activities are facing potential prosecution. The impeachment storm is really just the beginning. The criminal trials that follow could implicate hundreds of political figures, donors, and business associates. The scope of accountability coming is unprecedented in American history. The damage to Trump's business empire from this impeachment storm is catastrophic and irreversible. Banks are calling in loans, partners are fleeing, properties are being seized by authorities. The Trump brand, already toxic, is now radioactive. His allies in the business world are pretending they never knew him. The financial empire he spent his life building is collapsing in real time as the impeachment evidence reveals it was built on crime and corruption. Public opinion has shifted dramatically as evidence has been presented. Even many Trump supporters are expressing shock at the scope of corruption revealed. The approval for impeachment and conviction has reached levels never seen before, with even majority support in deeply red states. The allies abandoning Trump are reading these polls and realizing that standing by him is political suicide. The public is demanding accountability, and politicians are responding to that pressure. The historical significance of this moment cannot be overstated. We're witnessing the complete collapse of one of the most powerful political movements in American history. The MAGA coalition that seemed invincible is disintegrating as its leader faces accountability. Trump's allies are writing tell-all books, giving exclusive interviews, and trying to rehabilitate their images by claiming they were misled. The speed of this collapse, from dominant political force to scattered refugees, is breathtaking. The question of criminal prosecution after impeachment is no longer if, but when and how extensive. The Justice Department is preparing what sources describe as the largest political corruption case in American history. Trump's allies who don't cooperate face potential decades in prison. The impeachment storm is really just the opening act of a much larger legal reckoning. Those crumbling now are trying to get ahead of the prosecutorial tsunami that's coming. International implications of this impeachment storm extend far beyond America's borders. Authoritarian leaders who Trump praised and emulated are distancing themselves. Democratic allies are expressing relief, but also concern about American stability. The collapse of Trump's political network is creating power vacuums that other nations are trying to exploit. The geopolitical ripples from this impeachment will be felt for years. Looking ahead, the question isn't whether Trump will be convicted, that seems increasingly certain, but what happens to American politics afterward. The Republicans who stood by Trump until the end will be politically radioactive. Those who switch sides might survive, but will face primary challenges from Trump loyalists. The Democratic Party faces its own challenges in not overreaching. American politics is being fundamentally restructured by this impeachment storm. As we watch Trump's allies crumble and abandon him, it's important to remember what brought us here. This isn't just political disagreement or partisan warfare. This is about documented crimes, proven corruption, and systematic abuse of power. The senators voting for impeachment aren't doing so lightly. They're responding to evidence so overwhelming that they have no choice. Trump's allies are abandoning him because they've finally seen proof of what he really is and what he's really done. The bottom line is this: the Senate impeachment storm represents the final reckoning for Donald Trump and anyone who enabled him. His allies are crumbling because they know the evidence is undeniable and conviction is likely. The desperate scramble to distance themselves from Trump, to claim they were misled or uninformed, is the last act of a political movement that's about to be held accountable for its crimes. This impeachment storm isn't just ending Trump's political career. It's destroying an entire network of corruption and ensuring that those who participated face justice. The allies crumbling now are just trying to minimize their own punishment when the full weight of the law comes crashing down.